Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about something called Diesel
Punk.
Diesel Punk?
Diesel Punk. Like the gas diesel.
Okay. Instead of steampunk.
Instead of steampunk. It's an offshoot of steampunk is basically what it is.
But with gas instead of water.
Diesel.
I'm sorry. Diesel instead of water.
I don't know why diesel is different from gas. I guess it gives you
a more grittier feel?
Yeah, maybe. Dirtier?
I've never touched diesel or gasoline, so actually with my fingers, unless it accidentally spilled.
Diesel is really oily.
Okay, see, I've never touched that, so that's
I took
gross.
a diesel bath once. It was not pretty.
Ew.
Somebody had left the pump on, and when I turned it on, it got all over me.
Ugh.
Yeah, I had to go home and take a shower.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Diesel Punk. So it's an offshoot of steampunk. There is a few games that use that kind of a term. Two games that we're looking at today one is called Carbon Gray, and the other one is called
The Age of Steel.
The Age of Steel.
The age of men is over. The age of the orc is here.
Yeah. So Carbon Gray was kickstarted in 2021. It is based on a comic book, now graphic novel, which I guess came out in 2011, which I didn't know was that old. The book is written by, I don't know his first name, but Andrew, I think, Gaska. He's the one who wrote Alien. So he's also written a couple other RPGs. He's done a pretty good job of converting Aliens to a playable game.
He also did Terminator.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen Terminator or looked at it. He's a new but very successful game author. The other one is available on Drive-Thru RPG. I think it's been around since 2018, I believe. Age of Steel. And it is, I think, available on PDF, print on demand. It is slightly different. They're both slightly different, right? They're both don't take place on Earth, but in a very Earth-like setting.
An alternate history?
I would say alternate history, alternate world.
Alternate dimension?
Yes. I think Carbon Gray does take place on Earth, but it's a different...
An alternate history.
Right, yeah. And the other one takes place on a planet called Neris, but very, very Earth-like. I don't know where I came across Carbon Gray in my hunting of RPGs. I've always wanted to run a steampunk game. Steampunk? Yeah. And playing them, obviously, because anything I'm willing to run, I'm really, really interested in playing. My brother ran a Victoriana steampunk game.
Which was a lot of fun.
We played online. My brother lives in Washington State, 2 states away, and we play online, and it was really, really cool. I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. I think it was a pre-written adventure, and he did a really good job, and I really liked it. Unfortunately, we haven't played that game again. I actually own Victoriana. I don't know what edition. I think it's up to 3rd edition, and it is a dice pool system. You have a D6 dice pool system, and you just add your skill and your attribute, and that's how many D6s you roll. And you're looking for successes, and I'm not sure if it's a 5 or 6 is a success or only 6s. I think it's 5 or 6 is a success, and you're looking for how many successes you have. The more, the better, obviously, and that's how it is. It's a really simple system. I really like it, and we had a lot of fun playing it. So Carbon Gray, again, I was in my hunt for a steampunk game, and I came across Diesel Punk. So it's a little different. I think steampunk traditionally is Victorian era, kind of like the late 1800s to the early 1900s.
Doctor Who took it all the way up to, I mean, it's an alternate history. It went all the way up to, in Doctor Who, it was an alternate dimension or universe, but it went all the way up to World War II, where they had the Zeppelins flying through the sky.
In World War II?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. They each have their own history, of course, of how things are or how they came to be. And Carbon Gray, it starts with a little bit of fantastic. There is a comet or a meteorite that hits a shepherd, and it gets lodged in his body and his heart, and it gives him like godlike powers. And he is a shepherd, and I think it's a boy actually, and he saves the Kaiser in Middle Europa. He saves the Kaiser. He becomes the Kaiser's bodyguard, and it's a whole thing. And then with his help, he's able to like make a large empire. And time rolls on. I think they say it goes into the 20th century. Shepard has 3 daughters, and they have some of his power, but not all. They go around kicking butt, right, wherever they go. They're like a whole army to themselves.
Are they like battle mages?
Yeah, they're called the Gray Sisters. I don't know what Gray, but maybe the Shepherd boy was Gray, or I don't know, but they're called the Gray Sisters. And the Kaiser uses them to full extent, I think, to conquer and kick butt. And then, of course, people get tired of this empire, and they get some autonomy, and then the Kaiser tries to reinsert his power, and they rebel, and there's a great war. And it's like World War One. There's trenches all around Europe, and war is happening, and this is where the gameplay starts.
What kind of system is it?
It's a D6.
I was reading that it's West End Games,
right.
And it's
the D6. The same system that powers Star Wars. D6 is the same as this system. It's made by Magnetic Press. It's a relatively new company. I've never really heard of it. They produced some other games and stuff, but this was their big Kickstarter. Like I said, it's based on a comic book, and you can get the graphic novel is available. And the thing about this game, because it's based on the comic book, and because they use the artist, the art is really cool. That's what really captured my attention. I didn't see it before the Kickstarter. If I did, I probably would have been all over this one. Magnetic Press now sells the book and accessories on their website, and I think it's just really cool. One of the things, like I said, is the art is really, really, really cool. They have full page art every once in a while in their rule book. They did put out a quick start document on PDF, and it's really cool. It's like 60 something pages. It has the rules. It explains the rules. It gives you a little bit of the background. It doesn't tell you how to make a character because it's a quick start. Most quick starts will not tell you how to make a character. You have to buy the core book. But it also gives you pre-generated characters, and it gives you an adventure at the very end of this quick start rules. And it's a pretty cool adventure. I mean, it's a good 10 pages long. It has maps. Overall, it's a pretty good quick start PDF. Now, I've never played the Star Wars D6. It was by West End Games. It went bankrupt a number of times and was bought out by different companies. And then the last company that bought it was Nocturne Media, which is Stuart Wick's company, who was in charge of Vampire the Masquerade. That Stuart Wick. Unfortunately, he passed away around 2018, 2016. I forget when he passed, 2017. But his brother and his wife took over the business and are in charge of it. The reason I know this is because at the time he was doing a Kickstarter for Aquelarre, which is a Spanish medieval era game about witches and devils and stuff like that. And his brother and his wife stepped in and finished the Kickstarter and actually put the book out and did what they had to do to honor that Kickstarter, which I thought was unbelievably amazing, because I really thought that once the creator had passed away, there was no chance that we were going to see that book, but they actually did everything they could to get that done. So I thought it was pretty cool. So they're the ones that own West End Games material, which is like Star Wars and stuff. And they're the ones that put out the 30th anniversary of Star Wars. Anyway, so this is the first game that I've seen that uses the D6 rules. And one of the things about the D6 rules is that it was really super easy, super fun to play. And they said that there was problems with it because you could get to the point where you could break the rules because of the way the rules were written. So Magnetic Press uses that D6 system, tweaks a little bit, changes it.
They didn't change it too much.
No, not too much. And that was another thing, is that they didn't change it too much. And I think that what they did too is, which we talked about in OSR episode, is that people who played the Star Wars game, they said that sometimes the explanations weren't very clear and you could not understand exactly what they were trying to say. But this Carbon Gray edition, this Carbon Gray set of rules is super clear. There's not a lot of doubt of what they're trying to explain. And I think that's interesting because that's what OSR does. They go back and they kind of clear up rules and they explain them.
But this is not an OSR game.
This is not an OSR game. But I'm saying this is a D6 game, but they did exactly what the OSR community does for original D&D and old D&D, is to clean up the rules and present them in a better way and explain them in a better way, which I thought was really cool. And it just did some minor tweaks to the system. There was a electrical and mechanical attribute, which they just kind of made it to one.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is that all the attributes have 6 skills attached to the attribute.
I thought it was 5.
6.
Okay.
There's 6 skills attached to the attribute, which I guess in previous edition of the D6, in the Star Wars one, for example, strength only had 2 skills attributed to it, and so it wasn't as valuable in skills as it would be like if you had dexterity or the other attributes that had 5 or 6 or 7 skills attached to that attribute, which I think is, just kind of balance things out a little bit better for people playing that game. So the setting is really cool. It's like this world at war, and you have different types of themes to work out or to play in this system, right? Because it's a world at war, you have war as hell kind of a story, like you're soldiers in the thick of war, and you role play that kind of a campaign. And then there's like intrigue of as far as like why is the war happening, so that instead of like the actual battle, you can play like a spy trying to figure out information, trying to come up with secrets of plans of the enemy, secrets of the enemy, and help one side or the other. I thought it was and these themes are explained in the quick start rules, and one is like the propaganda versus truth. I think that's very interesting. The idea that you can be involved in that kind of a campaign, like a political campaign, as to making the war palatable or fighting against that war, however way you want to look at it. I think it's really neat that they included these kind of things in the quick start rules. They're just obviously there's you can't really use them in the quick start rule because there's only one adventure, but they give you ideas of how you could use this set of rules to plan out a campaign.
And you get to play different. I mean, the what do they call them? Not templates, but the archetypes. You can play different things like a master spy, moonlighter, brash dogfighter.
That's like a fighter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Royal operative, fervent revolutionary, trench fighter. But those are some of the ones that are in there.
Well, that's pretty cool. I think even the description of the archetypes kind of give you ideas of what kind of campaign you can run, right?
Yeah. Like other games, it has the lifestyle, right? So you could be an aristocrat or you could be a trench soldier, right?
Yeah.
There's different classes that you're playing. Not classes as in RPG classes, but how much money you have and that kind
social,
of thing.
Economic
Your social,
level.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty neat. I think that gives you more than just a war game kind of feel that you can play in. Because of course you could have that war as hell playing in.
But you could also do an intrigue game in like a political intrigue game.
Yeah, exactly, and also spying, right?
Yeah.
You come across a castle, and there's some whatever.
And you could have aspects of that, and all of the player characters could be different things, right?
Right.
And on a certain mission.
Of course, yeah.
This game reminded me the most of Weird War, right?
Yes.
The World War II Weird War game.
Right, because it's not really in our reality. You can have monsters and supernatural things happening other than the Grey Sisters and other than the shepherd who got hit by the meteor. There could be other aspects or other things that can be affected by this meteor that fell to Earth, or it could be more than one meteor, right, or something else. So I think there's quite a bit of playability and different things that you can play, or different types of games you can play with this rule set.
Well, I was confused when they said it was a D6 system. I was thinking it was like Traveler, where you use 2d6, but
no.
Saul informed me that's not the case.
It's a dice pool game.
So you take if you have, the way that I saw it yesterday, you take your dexterity attribute, which gives you 3 dice.
Right.
And then whatever skill you're using under that, it gives you like 1 dice or 2 dice.
Right.
And then you roll the dice pool.
Right, and you add all the numbers together.
And then it tells you there's like difficulty levels. How difficult is it? It's if it's a 5 is very easy, right? A 25 is very difficult, and a 30 is extremely difficult.
Right, because you're just rolling the dice and you're adding up all the numbers.
Yeah.
And you're trying to hit a target number, which is it's like on a ladder between 5 and 30.
So if you only have 4d6 and very difficult or extremely difficult is 30, you're not going to make it, because the highest you could get would be 24.
Yeah, correct. Unless there's some bonuses for
modifiers and And they did talk about that. It gives you extra dice for armor and stuff. There was a whole section on how armor stacks.
Okay, yeah.
And so you get these extra dice to add to whatever the opposing roll to being hit.
Yes, or to slough off damage.
Right. But also, the more armor you have, I guess the other person gets to roll. They get an advantage or something. So it was interesting.
So I think it's really cool. I really like the art. Like I said, I think a lot of people who were interested in this game probably were attracted to the art.
Well, maybe they read the comic.
Or read the comic, right.
Or a graphic novel.
Yeah, and like I said, because they have that kind of art to pull from and use from the comic book, and you have the artist, I'm sure the artist was the same artist that was using the comic book. So I think it's really cool. I have not read the comic book. I have not read the actual graphic novel. So I'll probably be looking into that pretty soon.
So what's the diesel punk part of it? I mean, what's the diesel part?
Well, I think the diesel is that it's, like you said, it's more gritty. It's less, Steam is like cleaner, right? It's less, I don't know, I'm going to say natural, but not really. But where diesel is smoky and dirty. I mean, just think about let's say a giant mech, like a mech warrior, like a giant tank on legs. Now, if you have a diesel, I mean, you have a steam punk engine or steam engine running that, it's just going to shoot out steam. It's going to be whistling, whatever. But if diesel, it's going to be black. It's going to be, you know how diesels are, or old diesels, or even new diesels now. They spit out choking black smoke, though supposedly it's better for the environment than gasoline burning vehicles. So it's gonna be spewing out smoke. It's burning diesel, which is probably dirtier than steam, I'm guessing. So
maybe it's more the time period or the idea of the Victorian age versus the early 1900s.
Yeah, I guess you're right too. There's that, the early 19th century or 20th century, like the 1920s, 30s kind of era, right? Because that's when gasoline is really gasoline engines are starting to be introduced in the United States, at least, and taking over from steam.
It's kind of a dystopian kind of world, though, too.
Oh, definitely. So, of course, if it was a utopian world, then there's no.
One of the cool things in the quick start guide, is they have the little character sheets look like World War I registration.
Oh yeah,
cards,
they were pretty cool.
Like for the army or whatever.
Right. And there's only I think there's 5 characters.
Yeah, something like that.
So, and they're like half a sheet, so there's not a lot of stuff on them, and I think that really lends to how simple the system is.
Yep.
So we also looked at this other game called Age of Steel, right? Because it calls itself Diesel Punk also, and it is much like Carbon Gray. It takes place in the 1920s or 30s.
1920s and 30s, yeah.
Right after the Great War, I guess, or is it during the war?
It is a world recovering from the first global war A world in the twilight years of exploration and adventure, it says.
Yeah, and I think they really hone in on the diesel funk more than I think Carbon Gray is.
It says the heroes have to be hard as steel.
Makes sense. And I think they're the ones that actually mention mechs. There's no mech mentioned in Carbon Gray, but in this one, people have mechs, and it basically is something that is used in everyday life, from a battle mech to a loader, like you would have like in Aliens, the loader. Instead of but you're riding inside this big, huge machine that's powered by diesel.
Yeah, and theirs is also a D6 system.
Yes, so you see a trend here,
which I thought was interesting. But they try to do a classless system.
Yes.
Which I don't totally understand what that means.
Classless means there's no archetypes, there's no templates. You just make a character and just skills, kind of like GURPS.
Okay.
Or you just make a character.
The stats, all the characters in the Age of Steel have 3 stats, which describe their innate physical, mental, and social abilities.
Keep it simple, yeah.
And then the skills, any character in the Age of Steel can make a check against any skill. They don't need to possess a skill to attempt to use it. However, characters who are trained in the skill will find it much easier to succeed. I found that in most of the games that you play. You can always try it, but that one, especially like in Shadowrun, if you want to fire a gun and you only have a 1 die in that skill, it's going to be really hard to fire that gun because you have to get a 6.
There's always the attribute that you can fall back on, right? Is that how it works in Shadowrun? Jeez, I can't believe that. Yeah, you roll D6s, right?
Yeah. I know that Kathy could only roll 1d6 for her gun because she had no skills or
she had no skill and just the attribute. Yeah, that sucks for shooting.
Yeah, or maybe it was 2.
I think it was a little bit more than 1 die, but still not very good.
They have something called knacks. Some people are innately better in a particular skill than others.
Yes, kind of like feats, I think.
Every character in this Age of Steel game gets 3 knacks. These are attached to 3 separate skills and represent the fact that those skills are where that character naturally excels.
Wow.
A character using that skill gets additional dice to their roll.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think anytime, and what that allows you to do is to make any character you want. That's why people still like GURPS.
Yeah.
And other games like that where there's no character class. Travelers like that.
Yeah.
Right? If you
manage to get your character out alive.
And you can actually pick your skills, right? Yeah. So what that gives you is the total control as to what your character's like, right? If you want a mechanic that's a good brawler, or you want a mechanic that can swing a sword, that's cool. If you want a fighter that's really good with pistols, you can make any character you want. I really like those kind of systems that give you free reign as to make any kind of character you want. And there's no character class to get in your way.
Okay. And they also have something called Moxie, which I'm going to say is like hope and I want to say the Lord of the Rings, but that's not right.
Oh,
the One Ring.
Yeah.
So, but you only have a little bit of it. It's like pure luck, or it's like luck in COC.
I think what it is, it's like that, like plot points, that bennies and all that stuff in Savage Worlds, where you give the character the ability to save their bacon if they actually absolutely have to do that. You can spend Moxie to.
And I don't know about the other game, Carbon. What was it, Gray?
Carbon Gray.
Because this one actually talks about submachine guns, pump action shotguns, weird science ray guns, rocket packs,
right?
Diesel powered personal mech. They're all available to the players, and they have rules for crafting your own gear, and so that's interesting. That's more of that gives me the steampunk kind of feel, but it's powered by diesel, right?
Right, creating your own stuff definitely is that steampunk. What do you call it? The tinkering type of thing.
Yeah.
I think that definitely does fit that kind of system. Now, Carbon Gray does not mention anything about making your own stuff, about tinkering. It doesn't talk about ray guns. It does have a small weapon section, but like I said, it's only a quick start guide, and what you're looking at is the actual rules, the whole rules for that game, which is what 128 pages,
something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not actually looking at the whole rules for that game.
Yeah,
Saul is confused. He has that pulled up. I don't have the whole rules.
Yeah, that where Carbon Gray is available on their website, Magnetic Press. Age of Steel is only available on Drive-Thru RPG.
Isn't Carbon Gray available on Drive-Thru RPG too?
Probably the PDF is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think they print their own books.
Oh, okay.
And you could get a print-on-demand book for Age of Steel. So yeah, if you wanted to. I think there was it's only available on softcover because the hardcover.
Are we talking about Age of Steel?
Age of Steel.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I don't know, something happened with the way they set it up, and it's only available on softcovers. So some people really like hardbacks. I mean, softcovers I
can attest to that.
They last a little bit longer.
As I look at bookcases full of hardback books.
They're a little sturdier. They last longer. I have plenty of softcover books.
So they have they have at least 4 books that I can see available on Drive-Thru RPG for Age of Steel.
Yeah, 2 of them are adventures. One is a player's guide, and the other one is, I forgot what
the core rule book, an adventure, and the Adventurer's Handbook supplement.
Adventurer's Handbook. Yeah. So this Age of Steel is by probably a one-man show. You know, he's publishing his own material probably. Obviously has other things. He's creating other things.
What I'm looking at, it doesn't tell me that.
No, well, I read the comments
in
the Drive-Thru RPG. People were asking questions as to why there wasn't a hardback, and he explained that. That's why I know about the hardback. And somebody wanted adventures and more adventures because the person said that he only has 10 to 12 hours of
adventure time,
and 6 hours of that is playing time, and so he doesn't have time to write his own adventures. So he wanted more adventures, that he could use to run a campaign, and he only has those 2 books.
So in both of these games, there are no Zeppelins, right? Is that the thing?
Oh no, I'm sure there is. Yeah, no, it talks about Zeppelins in
Carbon Gray.
Carbon Gray, yeah.
Okay, so it could be steampunky or diesel punky, I guess, if you want to call it that. These games obviously are called that, but I was just thinking the first one, Carbon Gray, seemed more like because it was a meteorite that hit the Earth.
Yeah, but it was a tiny one that hit the guy in the chest.
So that seems like more, and obviously that seems comic book to me, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So it seems more maybe weird war-ish to me, because different things are happening.
Right.
But they put it as if he helps the Kaiser, then that's more like a World War I game to me.
It is World War I, yeah. And that's where the conflict starts coming in, is that with the advent of other sciences and other things, other nations start looking at this empire and saying, well, we don't want to be part of the empire anymore. And then the Kaiser himself, who's still alive, miraculously. Yes, exactly. Tries to reassert his power over the empire, and which causes the Great War.
So they both take place in
early 20th century.
Yes.
Yes, I misread that. So when he says the Kaiser was the first Kaiser, which must have been, who knows when that was, in the 1800s? Who knows? Well, it's also not in the real world. You can look
it up. It's
not in the real world. So they both take place in the early 20th century.
Yes, the 1920s.
1920s. And so when you look at that kind of time period, and you can always fudge things of things a bit because they don't take place in the real world, which I think is pretty interesting, and gives you a lot of leeway as a GM. Because if you place it in the real world, people can go, well, actually, this didn't happen. Well, because it's an alternate reality or on a different planet, you don't have to stick strict rules as to things that happened in history.
I like the idea that it's like steampunk, but it's a little bit different, right? It's a little more gritty.
I think grittier is a good description of how it differs from straight steampunk. Because we did do a steampunk episode back in 91, episode 91, or episode, it was the first 100 episodes.
Anyway.
And we talked about Victoriana, we talked about those, and they were very Victorian era, age of steam kind of games, right? Throw in a little myth, a little bit of weirdness and stuff like that. But this one is definitely, you advance the timeline just a little bit, and you're in this great war as hell kind of era, and also instead of pure steam, it's diesel, where you're starting to get this choking, smoking engines that make a lot of pollution and stuff like that. So I think you're right. It's a very gritty, meaner world.
More dystopian.
More dystopian than steampunk.
Which I think World War I time could be considered dystopian with all the trenches and gas and stuff like that. That was...
Oh, definitely. I can't even imagine living...
It was the first war that was different from other wars.
Right.
Because the machine gun and...
Gas.
There were all kinds of different,
poison gas.
Yeah.
Machine guns, tanks.
Yeah.
And then airplanes, even though were very limited use.
Yes.
Also, they use Zeppelins in World War I.
I find it very cool. I like the idea of being able to play a dog fighter pilot, right? I see Snoopy up there, and I'm like,
the Red Baron. So I think both of these games attack the era a little differently.
A little bit differently, yeah.
Right. And
I think either one would be fun to play, though, because one, you could be like on a mission and you have like a fighter with you. Maybe you have maybe a couple grunts or whatever,
right?
And you're the person in charge, or you're one of the grunts following the person in charge and trying to keep them safe because you think they're going to get killed.
Or like you could be a spy, and the grunts are with you. The soldiers are.
That's what I meant. A spy, one of the people that.
Or a dignitary.
You don't know exactly what they are, right?
True. You're just on a mission.
And the other one seems pretty cool, too, because you could have mech stuff with you.
Yeah, you could be the pilot of mech and stuff.
Or you can have little things that...
And it's pre-war, right?
Rocket pack? No, it's post-war.
But, another war is just around the corner.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yes, you're on the brink of a devastating conflict. Another devastating conflict.
Right, because I don't... When did World War II start? I don't know.
Just... A little bit after World War I ended.
No, World War I.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I think in that sense, it's very, very interesting time period to play.
So it gives you all kinds of things to play. Either one of those games.
Right.
And the D6 system looks pretty interesting.
Both of them.
You're not really it's not like where you take your attribute and I guess you do. Yeah. Attribute and skill. Yeah, it's just the way that it looked to me was a little...
But instead of like D&D, not D&D, instead of like Shadowrun or Tales from the Loop, you're not looking for a 6 or 5s or 6s.
You're adding all the dice.
All the dice.
And the Age of Steel is the same way? You're adding up all the dice?
I'm not sure how you do Age of Steel. I know it's a dice pool system.
Yeah, I said it's a dice pool system. A D6 dice pool system.
I don't think it has a quick start.
The Age of Steel uses the dice pool system using a number of 6-sided D6 to resolve skill checks and combat damage. The system has been created to be lightweight, easy to use, and to help capture the cinematic pulp feel of the setting.
Yeah, so one complaint is that it's almost too easy or too simple. It's not crunchy enough for some people.
Well,
but that's just...
Go play Shadowrun if you want crunchy. I'm just saying. I think this would be cool. I like the easier systems where it's a little bit easier to resolve things.
Yeah. And a little bit easier to understand.
Less crunchy is nice sometimes for people.
Especially if you're playing like a really pulpy setting.
Yeah.
Like you're not too worried about the details.
Yeah.
Kind of like...
like Feng Shui, where you're...
Exactly
that's the best one.
Yes.
You describe what's going to happen.
And just roll dice to see if
it manages or something else happens.
Or not so close.
Yeah. And then you can describe as you fall down the building what's happening. So there you go. I think these are both very interesting systems. Saul says, I guess they're called diesel punk.
Diesel punk.
Which is a new term for me.
I'd be too.
So that's pretty cool. If you're interested, if it sounds interesting, You can get I think the quick starter is free.
Yeah, the quick start is free for magnetic
Carbon
press, for carbon gray.
For carbon
Just
gray.
put carbon gray and it'll pop up.
And the other one, it looks like you can get it on Drive-Thru RPG, so it can't be that expensive, right?
No, I think it's like $10 for the PDF.
So that's pretty good. You could play either one of these and have a lot of fun.
Yep.
There you go. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
And you have a good day.